Hello, welcome to the Trews. Subscribe here, Trewsers. You're a Trewser. Subscribe here. Become a proper Trewser. Yeah, subscribe here. Today on the Trews, we are looking at Tony Blair. Provoked, obviously, because he said, I literally don't understand what he means.
I haven't studied a lot of what the Russell Brand stuff really means, but I suspect if you implemented that or tried to implement it as a government, I literally don't know what it means.
So now I want to look at Tony Blair. Specifically, what I don't understand about Tony Blair is why we're still waiting for the report, the Chilcot report, which examines Britain's role in the Iraq War. It's an inquiry that was announced in 2009. 5 years later, the report is still not released. And I literally don't understand why it's not been released yet. I literally don't understand it. Let's see if we can learn more true news here.
No limits on what Chilcot could ask or to whom, but there will be limits on how much we get to know. We may never see the promises Blair made to Bush on Iraq.
Yeah, because they had private conversations. I mean, obviously, they're a Prime Minister and a President. They had private conversations that will never be released. David Cameron in 2012 vetoed the release of these documents to the inquiry. How are they going to do a proper inquiry if vital documents are excluded from it? What is the reason that these things are concluded? I literally don't understand. I literally don't understand why he wouldn't include those documents. Well, let me think about it for a second. It's because those documents reveal wrongdoing and will be highly provocative. Well, why are these documents not being released before the general election? Because the contents of these documents will make us detest, deplore, despise politicians so deeply that we won't bother to vote for them, which, you know my position.
We may never know exactly what he committed to before asking Parliament or the public.
So, it's a democracy and everything, but they obviously made commitments before telling Parliament or the public. That's two layers of people that were ignored. So he only sort of told himself.
More than 10 years since the war began, 5 years since Sir John Chilcot's inquiry into what happened started, he's announced he won't be able to publish the full extent of crucial contacts between Blair and Bush.
We can't publish the full extent of crucial contact. Don't do a report then. Just say everything's fine. If that's all you're going to do. Here's the report. Was it thorough? No, we weren't allowed to do a thorough one. Well, fuck off then. What's interesting is Tony Blair's ascent and trajectory is a good way of us understanding how politics work. He went into number 10 and we were all optimistic and confident. Noel Gallagher, our mate, he turned up, didn't he, down the street and had champagne and all that because he said there was a sense of real optimism across the country. But we all saw what happened to that optimism. That groundswell of goodwill from the landslide election was used to eventually go to a very, very unpopular war. And what's happened since Tony Blair left power? How has he used the relationships he developed as a Prime Minister? Well, like last year was an interesting one for him. He was made GQ's Philanthropist of the Year. That's almost like you'd have to sort of laugh while saying it. You're Philanthropist of the Year? Why don't they just say nice haircut, nice bow tie, lovely smile, good hand gestures, something like that. Then, in a sort of almost pornographically audacious and sarcastic award, the Save the Children gave him its Global Legacy Award. We've got to give you a Global Legacy Award. And who are you? We're Save the Children. You make sure this guy's legacy doesn't involve in any way like killing children. Oh, well, there was a little thing he done where 93,000 children disappeared as a result of kidnapping, forced recruitment or abduction. 2 million Iraqi children were displaced as a result of Anglo-American occupation of Iraq, and the sanctions affected and orphaned up to 4.5 million children. Yeah, but that's quite a legacy. Give him sake.
For some of the families whose loved ones were killed, only getting part of the truth is not enough.
Yeah, what's the point? Don't do the inquiry. How does someone like that get a Save the Children award? I don't know, who's in charge of Save the Children? Justin Forsyth. Oh, he was recruited by Tony Blair in 2004.
The block on publishing documents is not just intelligence or military information.
His pockets are too high up to have your hands in your pocket. Hello.
But Blair and Bush's politically intimate communications. Blair's critics claim he made a promise to go along with an invasion before he knew if it could be kept.
What I was saying to President Bush was very clear and simple.
Use the documents then. If it's so clear and simple, why have the documents got to be vetoed? It's very clear and simple and deeply secret and buried and inaccessible. I don't understand it, Tony.
You can count on us. We're going to be with you in tackling this, but here are the difficulties. And as you see, the rest of the note is actually about all the issues and the difficulties.
It's very into his hands. And he Tony Blair's karate chopping inwards, or moving the hands a lot. No wonder Rupert Murdoch's wife used to like to have him sleep over.
In a sense, what I was saying to America is, look, and this is, by the way, I'm absolutely sure how George Bush took it.
What do you mean you're sure how George Bush took it? I mean, you know.
Whatever the political heat, if I think this is the right thing to do, I'm going to be with you. So I'm not going to back out because the going gets tough.
It's not got tough for you. It's all them children that go, right, it's looking a bit bad now because of the 4.5 million orphans, the 93,000 children that disappeared. Well, I'm not going to back out now just because it's got tough. I've gone all the way in. Who would I be if I withdrew at a point like that just because some children are dying? Let's get right in there as deep as you can.
After months of wrangling, the inquiry's announced it will publish what they describe as gists and quotes.
Gists! I can't use words like gists in an inquiry. Order! Order! Bring the findings to the front. It was sort of roughly a bit like gist. I wouldn't accept a gist if, like, I come back from holiday and one of my goldfish was died. I'd go, no, tell me exactly what. You know, just one there and go, did you tip all the goldfish food in there? Yeah, something like that. That's the gist of it. That's the gist of it. I'd want to know specifically. We're talking about wars, the consequences of which are still being felt, obviously, to this day.
Despite weeks and weeks of hearings, hours and hours of evidence, the final report was never going to be the full, pure, unadulterated truth.
Stupid that her findings at the end of that war, wasn't it? I just walked down this winding thing to me report that's down the bottom there. Tony Blair thinks that democracy is working well now, that people don't want to be consulted by their leaders. There's a whole swathe of public that think, you know,
I elect my government. You guys go and government. You know, don't keep troubling me every 3 seconds with, you know, what I should think or what I shouldn't think. They want to see their leaders leading.
Are you talking about dictatorship, Tony? It sounds a little bit like you're describing dictatorship. And why wouldn't he? Because Tony Blair now works for a Kazakhstani dictator, gives him advice. The president of Egypt, yeah, but, you know, he's president of Egypt. How did he become president of Egypt? Well, kill people in a military coup. Oh, nice. Nice work if you can get it. Also, like, you know, that war, a lot of people at the time said that war was about resources and oil and stuff, but we were told, no, it wasn't. It was a just war. It was to get rid of Saddam Hussein. Tony Blair does now have a multi-million-pound contract with a Saudi Arabian oil company. Oh, brilliant. So there's nothing to worry about there. Oh, yeah, but at least we're able to do a thorough inquiry, though, and see exactly what went on. Oh, not really, because quite a lot of the documents are vetoed. Brilliant. Nothing to worry about. Give the man a GQ award.
If Tony Blair had some exchanges with George W. Bush, some of them should be in the public domain, but on the whole, if you're now going to say to every world leader, any communication you have with the British Prime Minister can't be kept confidential, they'll stop talking to us.
Well, what are we going to have then? Like, are we just supposed to accept that the stuff they're discussing is abhorrent, and if we heard it, we would have a revolution? Yeah. Just accept that the stuff they're talking about is treacherous and deceitful. Also see that the correlative relationships between successive prime ministers is more important than any partisan distinction. Tony Blair, David Cameron, they all protect one another. Blair loved Maggie Thatcher, David Cameron protects Tony Blair. Well, there's all different parties involved in that. People going to elections, people putting posters up in their front windows, banging little things in their door. No one gives a monkeys. It's ridiculous. Why should we get involved? And it's Tony Blair is confused by me and my central message of don't trust politicians. The Westminster democratic process doesn't represent ordinary people. If you want power, take it for yourselves. Implement your own systems. Form alliances like the people on the New Era estate. Protest the way the fire brigade unions are. Find new ways of correlating. Develop new systems where we're in harmony with one another on the planet.
Iraq's still grappling with the aftermath of war. Our political legacy is still to be settled, but a less than explicitly complete version of events from the Chilcot inquiry may still leave room for both sides to choose their truths.
Tony Blair is, by all accounts, by what we can glean from the information we can get, a war criminal, and he should be in cuffs behind bars. And perhaps a measure like that would go some way to alleviating the stress and tension that we have around the world now between the world's multiple cultures. Also, Tony, with a little bit of bird, a bit of time behind bars, you'd have time to look at some of my books and maybe understand them a little bit better. That is some true news. True news, subscribe here, subscribe here.
Nose is a tool that is abused to fool you and to leave you scared and confused. Trews is like the nose. If the nose was true, I want some trews. Let's have some trews.